patent attorney from Toy Perfect. Yes, it's a patent company that he runs, and he's our patent attorney for the ECGF infusion set. But I thought it would be a good idea for us to share his knowledge and experience with patenting, especially the process, which would be particularly interesting for some of you who are doing innovation, developing processes. I think it would be quite beneficial. So Hendrik, please wait to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm going to scare you a bit. I have 218 slides. So it's going to be a long session, but I try to reduce the amount of information per slide. So I hope we have this presentation in about an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to talk a bit about the patent system in general, and actually, should you patent, yes or no? And what are the factors? And I will give a bit of an idea of what would be a suitable strategy for your institute. So, first of all, a little introduction. I come from a country that fits in a square box, 300 by 300 kilometers. And one of our major problems is that we are below sea level. If you look at the blue level, about 80% of our population lives there. So we have, since the past, a common enemy, and that brought us the way we are. If you compare us to your country, we just fit into Lake Victoria. That's about the size. So then you know. One of the big, I would say, comparisons between Uganda and the Netherlands is that we both have our highest export is agricultural products. And our country is about 1/6 of the size of Uganda. We are, and it's very difficult to believe, the number 2 exporter of agricultural products in the world. The US is number 1. This small little speck on the planet is number 2. We do things very efficiently. So that you know. So, why is there a patent system? I just want to take you to the general idea, like, hey, what is this about? Why is this there? And in order to answer this question, you first have to know what is an invention. And I just want to ask you, what would you think is an invention? Matthew, what would in one sentence be an invention? Stuff. Any idea? It is good, I'm going to interrupt you, it's good to think about it, because we all in this profession struggle with what is actually an invention. It is not clear. It is a mental act, but it is not really clear. Yet, we have a system to protect it. And if you look at the word invention, then you see there's the word vent. That is French for wind. There's in, wind, and beyond. It is like there's something blown in your mind, and suddenly you are at a higher level. So it is a source of nature that is giving you this property, and it is rather divine. So, if you look at the European system, we define an invention as a technical solution for a technical problem. But that doesn't really say what it is. If you look at the American system, they say it is a conception and a reduction to practice. And actually this more captures what an invention is. A mental act, the conception, which actually refers to our reproductive system, also rather divine, like bringing together information, a sperm cell and an egg cell, or, in the fact of an invention, a sort of thought snippet, something like you thought of, that is combined with the state of the art to gather something new. And you recognize this, I would say, from a pling effect. You have a problem, and you're not really thinking about this problem, but you're showering or you're in bed or you're dreaming and suddenly you have this bling. That's how you recognize an invention. Still, it's difficult to say what it is. After this conception, you have the reduction to practice, and you could compare that with a pregnancy. Pregnancy in the hand instead of where normally a child grows. And after this pregnancy, you have the birth of an ugly prototype. And it's funny to see the right one. That is the first digital camera on the planet. It's also nice to see that this first digital camera is developed by Eastman Kodak, a company in the US. The reason that Eastman Kodak does not exist anymore is because of the same digital camera. They decided not to develop them themselves because they were afraid that it would eat out their business of paper photographs. Indeed it did, but since they didn't, they lost it all. Too bad. So what you feel is that an invention is somehow an expense of resources, mental resources, and resources to build your prototype, and at the same time you create a value. So by nature, you feel that there's some urge of protecting this. And for that, we have a patent. And if you look at some wise men in the past, they say that the inventor should be compensated and rewarded. Well, that is what a patent is. It is a reward for enhancing the technology. And it is an incentive. This is another wise man, Jeremy Bentham. If you don't give the hope that somebody can reap, and he uses the analogy of a crop field, then how can you expect people to sow? So a patent is also an incentive to invest in the yet unknown. And we made this patent a property right. Much like a land ownership, it is something that belongs to a person. At the same time, it's a temporary monopoly. So if you have this property right, you are in fact the only one who can exploit the invention. You can stop others from doing so. And this is on any invention in any field of technology. And this is actually an exception to the normal free principles or the normal principles of free trade. And it is believed to be beneficial for society. I come back on this in the last part of the presentation, if it is indeed beneficial. So, we have a body of patent law, and the nice thing of this body of patent law is that it is globally harmonized. So the requirements that are valid in Uganda for obtaining a patent are the same in Japan, in the US, and in the Netherlands. And there are some requirements for an invention to be able to be obtaining a patent. First one is new, and I cite here the Ugandan Patents Act. Any other patent act will cite more or less a similar wording, the requirements for a patent. First of all is new. And new will say that it is not yet anticipated in the prior art. This is a bit of more text. This is exactly your Ugandan patent law. It is everything made available in print, writing, or anything. So you see that actually the patent should be that what is not part of the state of the art. So you see that the invention is actually your contribution to what is already known. That is the whole idea. Then there's another requirement, this is a more difficult one. It should be inventive. And we define it, as is stated in the Uganda Patents Act, that it is not obvious for the skilled person in the art. And who is this skilled person? That is a non-existing person who has all the knowledge in his field and no creativity. So this is a non-existing person, but it is for, how would I say, for seeing if something is invented, yes or no. So we created this fictitious person, and if something is for him not obvious, this person without creativity, then we say it is inventive. This is a concept, that's why I was asking you the questions. An invention is really difficult to define, especially this concept. So all over the world, specialists struggle with this thing. Then there's a last requirement, is industrially applicable. Almost anything is industrially applicable. Then there are some exceptions, and I made it in small print. These are the designs, mathematical procedures. This is not really part of this presentation, but I just wanted you to know that there are exceptions. And if you look at this patent, there are 3 main requirements. And you will see throughout this presentation, the number of 3 comes very often again alive. So, what are the functions of a patent document? First of all, to state who is the owner of the right and who is the inventor, and that you typically find on the first page. Again, small print, just an idea. Here is the economical part, who are the players, when was the patent filed, so this is the first part. Second part is to show you what the invention really is, in a manner that the person skilled in the art is able to do or copy the invention himself. So it should be sufficiently disclosed so that the skilled person can make or remake the invention. Very important, if he can't, you can prove that, then the patent is invalid. Good to know. And this is the description, basically a lot of text, and most of the time a couple of figures. And then last, it should define the scope of protection. And that is what is really in the claims. It's a list of very short statements which gives all the specific features